Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact Video Series. My name is Ryan Duffy, and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about probably the most important event in the Land Office building's history post-use as a land office, and that is the opening and dedication of the building as a museum and a historic structure. Now, this event would eventually take place on October 13th, 1894. However, in the years leading up to that, a large community effort was made in order for that to happen. Now, we can really go back into the early 1890s when members of the community in Batavia put their minds together in order to save what was seen as the most historic structure in the city, and that was the Holland Land Office. At that time, the building was falling into disrepair and was actually threatened for demolition. So the efforts had to come together quickly in order to get money together in order to buy the building. Things started to come together in the summer of 1893 when the Emory-Upton Post of the GAR started putting money together. Now, the property was worth $1,850, and it was deemed that they would raise about $850 and then mortgage the last $1,000. And the money would be raised through $10 donations to membership to the Holland Purchase Historical Society, who was the entity that would run the building after it was made into a museum, and it still does today. And the purpose of this organization was to preserve the Holland Land Office and its importance to the area and to Western New York. And they even worked in connections to Robert Morris, who was the one who sold the land to the Holland Land Company, even though he really had nothing to do with the building, but it was an extra historic figure that they could add to create a larger gravitas to the building. And by October of 1893, they'd actually raised $500, which was a pretty astounding achievement. But there was $350 left, and they found their savior in actually the senior class of Batavia High School, the class of 1894, who raised the last $350 so that they could buy the building and thus preserve it and make it into a historic site for Genesee County. Now, two of the bigger spearheads in the community were Superintendent John Kennedy of the Batavia School District, as well as Mrs. Mary Richmond, the widow of Dean Richmond, and probably one of the more wealthy women and people in all of Batavia. And it was through their leadership and spearheading of the effort that they were able to make the building into a historic structure, and this led to maybe the most famous day in Batavia's history. So pictured here is one of the many advertisements that was posted on the railroads in New York to draw people to the event on October 13th, 1894. Now, the preparation for the event began in earnest in July of 1894. At that time, the Batavia Daily News reported that arrangements for the dedication of the land office were well underway, with sponsorships by numerous businesses and professional leaders. Later headlines in August 1894 stated that all dignitaries in the county were invited to Batavia for the dedication, though the guest list would soon grow well beyond the county's limits. Robert A. Maxwell, a local politician who became an assistant postmaster general under President Grover Cleveland, used his influence to make the dedication a national affair. He was even able to convince the Secretary of Treasury, John G. Carlisle, to be the keynote speaker, as well as 5 other cabinet members and descendants of Robert Morris to attend the celebration with the dedication of the Land Office building. As Land Office Day grew closer, further preparations were made, including the creation of commemorative souvenirs and the creation of a choir of 150 of the area's best singers to perform during the celebration. Perhaps the most ambitious undertaking of the Land Office dedication was the parade, which you can see in the picture here, which would travel down Main Street ending at the Land Office. The parade would feature all civic societies, all schoolboys over the age of 10 years old, an Indian band, and community and industrial floats. Volunteer police were even added to help manage the massive anticipated crowds, along with special provisions for the hitching of horses throughout Batavia. Discount excursion rates were even offered by the 3 major railroads of Batavia to any residents of New York State wishing to come in for the celebration. On the day of the ceremony, which was again October 13th, the weather was very unfavorable with torrential rains and dark skies, which you can easily tell from how wet Main Street is and all the umbrellas. Yet the attendance was estimated to be between 6,000 and 8,000 people, though it was speculated that even twice that number would have attended in better weather. Despite the weather, the parade was described as the greatest ever and when the procession made it to the Holland Land Office, the tablet above the main door was unveiled to a crowd of over 2,000 people. By the time the crowd made it to the land office itself, they were treated to many speeches lauding the importance of the land office and Robert Morris to the area. Secretary of State Carlisle's address to the crowd was as such. In 1804, the building which you are here to dedicate today to the memory of Robert Morris was erected, and for more than a third of a century, the titles to the homes of the people who now inhabit the counties of Erie, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Niagara, except the Indian reservations, and nearly all the counties of Orleans, Genesee, Wyoming, and Allegheny were prepared and executed within its walls. Now, this statement has some hyperbole and inaccuracies. First off, the building was not erected in 1804, but 1815. I'm not sure where the date actually came from for that. And Robert Morris was not actually associated with the building in any way. He was just the one who sold the land to the Holland Land Company. Now, here's a picture of the ladies from the early Historical Society meeting in front of the building, which was taken not too long after the dedication. Now, Superintendent of Schools John Kennedy, who was one of the leading voices in the preservation building, stated, "While stands the land office, the Holland Purchase shall stand. For while the structure is in sight, it carries its old boundaries with it. It stands for a domain, it preserves the unity of Western New York. The office preserves the autonomy of the region, the real unity, the unity of common origin, common conditions, common toils, and triumphs." Now, before I end the video, I'd like to leave you with a soliloquy to the Holland Land Office that was written in the newspaper on Land Office Day, as I feel it really shows how much this building meant to the community back in 1894 and the importance that they attached to it. A soliloquy of the old land office by Bessie Chandler. For years I've stood alone, disgraced, mid the surrounding villas, and foolish boys with birthday knives have come and hacked my pillars. And lovers lingering at eve have hurt me to the marrow by carving two ill-shapen hearts pierced by a crooked arrow. And though I've tried to hold my own, I could not help but mutter, when first the chimneys tumble down, and then I drop a shutter. With all the insults I have borne, my old blood burns and tingles. It's hard to proudly rear your head when you have lost your shingles. But now all is past, is gone, I wake, or am I dreaming? Is this respect, this honor mine, or only empty seeming? It is no dream, I live again, in time's unceasing treadle. The wheel of fortune turns once more, and now I've got a medal. My portrait from a cup shines forth, yet a spoon looks richer. It lurks within a pickle dish, it gleams upon a pitcher. They tell my story far and near, with many different versions. They hold committees every night, they're going to run excursions. And all the things that once were mine, they're busy relic hunting, and sweet and garnished I shall be, and all dressed out in bunting. Far, far away those old days seem, when I was first erected, and it is sweet in one's old age to once more be respected. So now, brace up, O peaked roof. Stand fast, O oaken portal. Instead of slipping in the creek, we're going to be immortal. So it's just a nice little honor to the museum and representing what it was in 1894 and what it still is today. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of our Artifact video series and learned a little bit about how the museum became what it is and the honor that was bestowed upon the Holland Land Office building back in 1894. And if you've enjoyed this video and would like to know more about the building and its history, stop on by the museum. We'll be happy to fill you in on that. And if you've missed any of our previous videos, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and you can see all of them there. We are now over 60 altogether, so there's plenty of material to go through. So I thank you for watching this, and we hope to see you soon.